Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakuya, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Dharma Sunday, where I take canonical Buddhist teachings and apply them to our everyday experience. The title of today's talk is Right Speech and Responsible Speech. We in the West like to talk a lot about our rights. We have the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of assembly, the right to bear arms, and these rights are incredibly important. So important, in fact, that people have fought wars and died in order to protect our rights from being taken away from us. But in Buddhism, we take things a little bit further. We don't just talk about our rights, we also talk about our responsibilities. That is, how do we exercise our rights as American citizens in a way that removes suffering and creates joy, not only for us, but for the people around us as well? So the focus of today's talk will be around how do we exercise our First Amendment right to freedom of speech responsibly. And in order to discuss that, we'll be discussing the third tenet of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right speech. But before we get into that, I want to take a step back and talk about the Buddha's enlightenment. Now, Buddha took a vow when he sat under the Bodhi tree that he would not move from that spot, even if the flesh melted from his bones, until he found a way to end all sorrow. So he sat under the Bodhi tree for many days, had many experiences. He was tempted by Mara, the god of desire and lies. He saw all of his past lives. He realized enlightenment not only of himself, but the enlightened nature of all sentient beings. He had an experience that could not be put into words. So much so that when the morning star rose at the end of the night, he let out a joyous cry known as the lion's roar. And then, after having this earth-shattering experience that he could not put into words, Buddha got up from the Bodhi tree, walked into the world, and in an act of great compassion, tried to put it into words anyway. And I say all that to say that the way Buddha did this, the way he explained his enlightenment and our enlightenment, was through the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path being right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And the reason this is important is because sometimes we in the West think that the Noble Eightfold Path is unimportant. It's beginner stuff. We learn that and then we move on to the good things, the secret handshake and things like that in order to really understand Buddhist practice. But that's not the case. When we talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, we're talking about the praxis or the practical application of the Buddha Dharma. It is a literal roadmap that Buddha, in his compassion and his wisdom, gave us so that we can realize our own enlightenment. Not only that, but so that we could fulfill our vow to save ourselves and others from suffering. So the tenets of the Noble Eightfold Path are extremely important, and we need to study them deeply if we want to understand the Dharma. And today we'll be studying specifically the third tenet of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right speech. Now, in Buddhism, we're taught that our speech needs to be used in a way that adds joy or ends suffering for ourselves and other people. We need to use our speech responsibly. So we have the First Amendment right, we have freedom of speech, but unfortunately in the West, we have this idea that words don't matter. Because we have the right to say whatever we want. And the government can't arrest us as a result. But words have power. And even putting Buddhism aside, there's a reason that when two people join in marriage, they exchange words, they exchange vows to be with each other forever. There's a reason that we remember Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, in which he used his own words to call America to account for not living up to its words in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Words are important. That's why right speech is important. And we have to use our speech responsibly. Now, to figure out how to do that, I'd like to first look at the Second Amendment, which is our right to bear arms, because I think that'll add some clarity here. So when I was in the Marine Corps, every Marine is issued an M16A2 service rifle. And we have to qualify with that every year at the rifle range in order to get promoted and, frankly, to show that we can do our jobs. Now, every time we went to the rifle range to qualify, we had to recite something called the Marine Corps safety rules for firearms. And these are rules, there are 4 rules that we had to recite verbatim. And if we broke any one of these rules during our time at the rifle range, we could be removed from the range, in which case we'd kill our chances of promotion. Or if it was really egregious, we might be thrown into the brig, which is military prison. So this was a big deal. And the weapon safety rules are: treat every weapon as if it were loaded, never point your weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot, keep your finger straight and off the trigger until you intend to fire, keep your weapon unsafe until you intend to fire. So why did we have these rules in the Marine Corps? We're grown men. We know how to use our weapons. Why the rules? Because even though we have the ability and the right to use an M16A2 service rifle, we had to use it responsibly so that we did not put our lives or the lives of other people in danger. It wasn't just about rights, it was also about responsibility. Now, think of your words in the same way that you would think of a rifle. Words have the ability to cause harm, maybe not physical, but mental and emotional harm, and they can incite potentially other people to violence. And it becomes clear why we have to be responsible about the way we use our words. And in Buddhism, we do this using something called the Bodhisattva vows. A Bodhisattva is a being who has taken a vow, as I said earlier, to attain enlightenment so that they can help other people attain enlightenment. So we are saving ourselves and others from suffering. And our words, in order to be in accordance with right speech, in order to be responsible, have to be in accordance with the Bodhisattva vows. So what are they? Well, sentient beings are numberless. I'll save them. Are we using our words in a way to save ourselves and other sentient beings from suffering? Calling a friend to see if they're okay is in accordance with this vow. Giving a compliment to a friend or a cashier or a waiter is in keeping with this vow. Are we using our words in a way to save sentient beings? Delusions are endless. I'll see through them. Are we using our words in a way to help people see through the illusion of a separate self? Or are we using our words in a way that creates division and discord amongst ourselves and other people? Using calming words, peaceful words. This is in accordance with the vow. This is what we do as Buddhists. The teachings are infinite. I'll learn them. Are our words in accordance with Buddha's teachings? If Buddha was standing next to us right now, would he be okay with what we're saying? Would we be proud if he saw our text messages, if he read our emails, or would we be ashamed? Using our words in a way that's in accordance with Dharma teachings is keeping them in accordance with this vow. And finally, we have the Buddha way is difficult. I'll walk the path. And this is simply us admitting that this is hard. Admitting that we as human beings as physical Buddhas, as Nirmanakaya, we feel anger, we feel sadness, we feel pain. And when we're hurt, oftentimes we want to use our words to hurt other people. But as Buddhists, we choose not to do that. We hold ourselves to a higher standard, to the Bodhisattva standard, which I'm listing here. We don't just use our words. We're not just concerned with our freedom of speech. We're also concerned with our responsibilities, not just as Buddhists, but also, frankly, as American citizens, to use our words in a way that makes life better for the people around us. So again, those are the Bodhisattva vows. Sentient beings are numberless, I'll save them. Delusions are endless, I'll see through them. The teachings are infinite, I'll learn them. The Buddha way is difficult, I'll walk the path. And if we're not sure if the words we're using are responsible speech, if they're right speech, if they're accordance with the Dharma, we can use those vows as a metric to decide one way or another. And in closing, I'll say this. If you're still not convinced that our words have power, that we need to use our words responsibly, notice this. The third tenet of the Noble Eightfold path is right speech. The fourth tenet is right action. Now, Buddha was very wise and very compassionate, and he did things in a very specific way for a very specific reason. Why is it then that he would put right speech before right action in the Noble Eightfold path, which I said earlier is the roadmap to enlightenment? He did that because he knew, just like we know, whether we want to admit it or not, that our speech informs our actions. Words don't happen in a void. Wars have been fought because of speeches. Civil rights happened in this country because of speeches. Riots have been started and quelled because of the words that people spoke. Our words inform our actions. They also inform the actions of other people. So we have to be careful about what we say. If for no other reason, then we want to be careful of what we do. So that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to read articles I've written about Buddhist practice, you can do that at my blog, The Same Old Zen. Link for that is in the description for this talk. And if this was of value to you, I hope you tune in next week, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, when Dharma someday comes back again. Amitabha.